Nitro with the nice flow. Y'all acting like y'all don't know. Stop acting like y'all don't know. Who the future? We the future. Who the future? Us. Who the future? We the future. Who the future? Us. Causing chaos in the back of the bus. Get your hands up. We gon' show you how we buzz. Yeah. The future.
On a suddenly not so casual free Friday, it is CFB Knowledge for College. It is week 8. It is Friday, October 21st, 2022. The Shark and the Gun. Guns picks. What's going on tonight, my brother?
Having a beautiful Friday so far. But I owe the people a better performance than I did last week. 1-6 is unacceptable in my part. But guess what? The Guns always bounces back. So you better be telling me this week. I gave you winners 5 weeks in a row. You need to stay with me. You need to tell me. I am going hard in the paint this week. Give me this card. I love it, love it, love it. Let's get into it, Shark.
We'll give you the card. We'll give you the first play. 12 noon, high noon on the East Coast. Annapolis, Maryland. The Navy midshipmen have paid us and paid us well. Catching a Houston team off a bye and a ridiculous, egregious, pick whatever word you want, backdoor 2 weeks ago at Memphis. 2 touchdowns in the final minute of the game, an onside kick, a backdoor win. Navy, the spot, Guns picks, an official.
Yeah, the Sharks had it best. You got Navy coming off a backdoor win over SMU. I was on SMU. I am a little bit deflated off that one. But I guess what? I'm going to be back in the midshipman here. Let me tell you why. Navy coming off a close, straight-up loss, backdoor cover, 40-34, like I just said, but they put up 510 yards of total offense. So this offense is still clicking on all cylinders. Now you have Houston coming off a bye after beating Memphis in dramatic fashion, 33-32, plus 25 net yard average, which correlates with the score. Now you got to look at Houston. Overall production dropped dramatically, especially when they're on the road. Their offense drops 30 yards per game on the offensive side, and they give up 71 more yards of offense to their opponents, minus 61 net yard average when they are playing on the road. Now it's a revenge game. We love the revenge games, as you all know. Navy lost the last 2 meetings versus Houston straight up, and lost to them last year 28-20 as 19-point road dogs. Now you see them sitting at home as a 3-point road home dog. So there's a swing in the line right there from year 1 to year 2. I like Navy in this spot. They're off a short loss on the road, kind of deflating. Back home versus a Houston team that has issues on the defensive side overall, and the dynamic of that team. I think Hogerson is going to get fired with the Cougars. I don't think the players play up to what he expects, and I don't think the players even respect him at all. So I'll take the revenge spot. I'll take a disciplined Navy midshipman team here as a dog. Give me the +3 as the play.
Like it. Great analysis. And moving forward, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. on the Pacific Coast. It is Sharky Waters Nation. 9 words, a lifestyle ride the way we're out of the water. The Buy Hats is not engaged, but we are going locale, and we are going to Muncie, Indiana, and we're going to the road locker room. Eastern Michigan, the university, we are buying +2.5, 1.5 unit special. A lot going on here. Situational dynamics are developing within the MAC West. And what you're finding here with Eastern Michigan is a team that cannot perform at home and performs very well on the road. You have to go back to an outright win. Herm Edwards' last game with Arizona State, a blowout out-of-conference win, came home against Buffalo in conference and got absolutely demolished. Followed that up with another lackluster performance at home out of conference before going on the road to Western Michigan and, not coincidentally, blowing them out, including a first half, 35-7. 2 weeks ago. And of course, last week, we faded the same team we're buying now. It's schedule scaling. It's the ins and outs, ups and downs of FBS football week to week. And you get an opportunity to fade Ball State here. This is a revenge game for EMU. It is a short line. Last year on the road, Ball State did lay 2.5 points and win and cover. They come home. It's only they laid 3.5 on the road last year, 2.5 at home, even shorter than what I was trying to say, and obviously made a mistake. This is a short line, and you're looking at a Ball State team that is a very, very misrepresented 4-3 straight up on the campaign. Go back to their last 3 games. Outright home win against Northern Illinois, 44-38 in double overtime, a game they backdoored on the final possession of regulation. The following week, they won by 1 point on the road at Central Michigan. And last week, they played out-of-conference UConn, one of the worst teams sustainably in FBS football, and barely won that game 25-21. Their only other win of the campaign was a home game against Murray State, an FCS team. This team is highly, highly lackluster, highly misrepresented. Short number, EMU dynamic on the road as well. I think they win this game outright, plus 2.5, 1.5 units. Guns picks, alignment, I believe.
Full alignment, and potentially, I guess we can just call this the collab play of this show. I'm on EMU as well. As you know, EMU is a road dog juggernaut, absolute cash machine when they go on the road. They are 21-5 against the spread as a road dog. That is a big number dating back to 2016, I believe. Now, look what EMU did last week. They got absolutely dominated by NIU in a revenge spot type of situation, 39-10, but it was kind of expected, especially winning as a +5 dog versus Western Michigan the week before. Now you have Ball State. They've won 3 straight games in by a touchdown or less. NIU, Central Michigan, and UConn, 3 lackluster teams in that regard. They lost the net yards battle in 2 out of those 3 games. So that is a telling point that NIU got lucky in those spots. EMU is a good road team. They put up 50 more yards per game on offense, and they allow 46 yards less on defense when they're playing on the road. They have a +6 net yard average on the road and -92 net yards at home. That is telling right there. They are a road dog. They love to travel. Now, like I said, 22-5 against the spread as an away dog, dating back to 2016. And it's a triple revenge spot for EMU in this spot. They lost to Ball State 38-31 as 1-point home dogs last year. They lost in 2020 38-31, same score as 9-point dogs on the road. Covered that one. And in 2019, lost 29-23 as 1.5-point favorites at home. So what you're seeing here is triple revenge. You're seeing a absolute juggernaut as a road dog. You're getting the short line at +2.5. You might as well just split the bet up, take a little bit on the money line as well on this one, because that is kind of where this game is going to be going. Give me EMU. I'm just taking the points on this one, +2.5 as the play.
Yeah, the alignment play, the first one. I believe there might be 2 on this broadcast, and we're staying course. We're going 3 p.m. We're going to home team. We're going to Louisiana, and we're going to Louisiana Tech, the Bulldogs, coming home with situational schedule scaling dynamics developing. This team is 0-4 on the road with emphatic losses. At Missouri, 52-24. At Clemson, 48-20. At South Alabama, 38-14. At North Texas, 47-27. What do you guys see there? Every single road game, doesn't matter if they're playing Power 5, smaller conference, or whoever, they get demolished by over 20 points. At home, totally different story. 2 home games. September 10th, FCS opponent 52-17 blowout. Last week or 2 weeks ago, October 8th, in conference, key point as we get to the specific environment here, 41-31, an outright win against UTEP. You go to the other side of this game. We faded Rice last week with FAU. FAU did not cover by a hook. They finished the game 17-14 on a -3.5. Why? They came out in that game down 14-0 in the first quarter, including an explosive 78-yard touchdown catch for Rice. That was almost half their entire passing yardage in the entire game. One isolated play that was not a deep shot. It was a 15-yard in cut, and the kid took it to the house. This is not the team that is supposed to be covering these spreads. And guess what? They're 5-0 ATS in their last 5 ball games. And you have to go through those games, and you go specifically in conference. Go back 3 weeks ago at Houston, 34-27 cover. home against UAB. Outright win 28-24 in a game that UAB absolutely dominated every point in the game. And then last week, again, an outlierish result, an unsustainable 5-0 ATS. It's going to stop here. La Tech at home, revenge game in the spot you want to buy the home team. 1 unit official +3. 3:30 p.m. Bigger conference, Pac-12. Oregon at home, hosting Chip Kelly and UCLA. Guns picks, an official.
This is a game of the week, folks. This is the game to watch. You have 2 ranked opponents going against each other, and you see UCLA sitting here as a 6.5-point dog. You have to question yourself, scratching your head. Is like, how is Oregon a 6.5-point favorite at home? Well, I'm going to tell you why they are a 6.5-point favorite at home. Now, Oregon's just been rolling since their absolute complete dismantle by the Georgia Bulldogs in week 1. They're coming, and you got them coming off a bye. Pummeling Arizona in their last game, 49-22, as +200 and +224 net yards for the game. This Oregon team is a lot better than what people think. Now, Oregon, very strong home team to back. They are +32-point differential at home, +224 yard average at home. They only allow their opponents 295 yards of total offense, and they are 74 yards per game below opponent season's average as far as their offensive production is concerned. Now you got this UCLA team, has been dominant for that matter. They have +28-point differential, +206 net yard average on the road, but those numbers are a little bit skewed because guess what? They've only played 1 road game. Guess who they played? Colorado. Colorado is a bottom feeder of a team and absolutely in shambles. So you can only take those with a grain of salt. But let's check out UCLA's strength of schedule so far this season. They have faced the 103rd toughest schedule so far this season, while Oregon has faced the 21st toughest schedule. And these numbers are very aligned as far as the statistical element is concerned. Now you have Oregon 9-1 straight up versus UCLA and were a 1-point road dog last year in their 34-31 win. And now they are sitting at 6, -6.5, depending on what book you get it at home this season. This line is high for a reason, folks. Oregon is the better team in this spot. Bo Nix is playing much better ball. I think he's only had 1 interception since the Georgia game when he gave up 3. I like this Oregon team. I like the Ducks in this spot. UCLA is highly overrated in my opinion. Granted, they have a great quarterback. They have a great running back in Cabernet. But I think this is going to be the spot you're going to want to take the Ducks here. Bo Nix shows out here in Eugene. Give me the Oregon Ducks -6.5 as the play.
Speaking of showing out, we're going to Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Seems to be a trend on this broadcast. Buy teams at home in Louisiana on a Suddenly Not So Casual. Send it Saturday. It will be October 22nd, 2022. Shocker Waters Nation. 9 with the lifestyle. Ride the wave or get out of the water. LSU on the money line, -120, 1 unit. A lot going on here. And you have to really start going down the schedule of the opponents. Ole Miss comes into this game 7-0 straight up on the campaign. You got to go through the schedule. Week 1, a non-cover against Troy at home. Week 2, Central Arkansas, FCS. Week 3, at Georgia Tech, absolute bottom-level ACC football. Week 4, Tulsa, super down year. Week 5, barely beat Kentucky. Kentucky's in a down campaign versus recent years as well. Week 6, at Vanderbilt, historical bottom feeder SEC. Week 7, beat Auburn, who is having one of their worst campaigns in a decade. Every single opponent is either a lackluster team, an FCS team, a small conference FBS team, or a big conference FBS team that is at the bottom level of their quality over the past 10 years. And you really go through this matchup. LSU comes in here at 5-2. However, this 5-2 is slightly contaminated. Go back to week 1, Sunday, September 4th. We did have Florida State to beat them at a neutral site, I believe, down there in the Superdome. And then you come back to week 6 against Tennessee at home. Their only other loss in conference. Tennessee absolutely hammered this team. However, Hendon Hooker, Tennessee having a campaign for the ages. This has nothing to do with Ole Miss. And you go back to last year, Ole Miss did get pre-Chip Kelly LSU at home, 31-17 on a -9.5. We're talking line functionality. We're talking SEC football in conference. When you're 9.5 at home and you cover it and win by 14, and it comes all the way over to the opponent being favored in the matchup, it's telling you one thing. A 7-0 team is due to go down, and it's going to go down in Baton Rouge in Week 8. LSU -121 units. Speaking of waves and riding the wave, the green wave of Tulane, 3:30 p.m. in conference, hosting Memphis off the aforementioned loss 2 weeks ago to Dana Holgorsen and Houston. Guns picks, -7, unofficial.
Back-to-back jambalaya plays out in the bayou. That's how we're going to roll today, but I'm not going to be focused on LSU on this spot. I'm going to be focusing on the green wave. Now, you have Memphis coming off back-to-back close losses to Houston and ECU. Last week, they lost in 4 overtimes, 47-45, with a net yard average of 18. But Tulane, coming off a 3-game win streak, beating Houston, ECU, and UCF in these spots, losing the net yards battle in 2 out of the 3. But I'm not going to be focusing on this one here. Now, Tulane has been able to produce passing the ball lately. They put up 350 yards and 329 yards, respectively, in the last 2 games. Now, Memphis defense has been gashed big time in the passing game. If you actually look at the stats, they gave up 350 to Mississippi State, 371 to North Texas, 366 to Houston, and 304 to ECU last week. Memphis has a weak offensive line and a defensive line in terms of protecting the quarterback. 9.7 sack rate on the offensive line, and pressuring the quarterback, they stink at that too, 3.6% sack rate. Revenge game for the Tulane Green Wave. They lost to Memphis last year, 33-28 on the road as 6-point dogs. Tulane has covered 5 out of the last 7 matchups, and the home team is 5-1 against the spread and 5-1 straight up in the last 6 meetings. Memphis, as we've said on this show multiple times, we fade them on the road. They're a good home team, bad road team. They're 2-6 against the spread in their last 8 road games and 3-7-1 in their last 11 as an away dog. And they are also 0-6 against the spread following an ATS win, which they did get last week in the 4 overtime matchup. So with all that being said, we're liking the Tulane Green Wave in this spot when you're fading a Memphis team on the road after a deflating 4 overtime loss. I don't think this is going to carry over into any sort of production. This team is deflated. I love Tulane -7 as the play.
Love that, and love some Big Ten football as we segue 3:30 p.m. Madison, Wisconsin. We're taking Purdue, the Boilermakers, on the road, +2.5, 1.5 units. This is a generational buy. Purdue has not beaten Wisconsin since the year I graduated high school, 2003. And I was talking to Jay Money about this. Shout Jay Money, my partner in crime in the NBA from here to eternity. This is his official play as well. Talking about it right now, full alignment across the board. When you haven't beaten a team since 2003, this is just the spot that all worlds will collide. It's much more than just that narrative point. You have to look at Wisconsin this year. Wisconsin this year is very, very down. They're 3-4 straight up, and their only wins on this campaign have come against FCS, Illinois State, FBS, yet probably should be FCS. They're so horrible. New Mexico State in week 3, 66-7, and slightly later on at Northwestern, really a bottom feeder this year in the Big Ten, 42-7. And you get a line functionality spot where Purdue is really functioning very well on the road this year in conference. Purdue in their last 4 ball games is 0-2 at home against the spread on double-digit lines. 28-26 win non-cover against FAU out of conference. And last week, 43-37 win non-cover against Nebraska. Go back to the sandwich weeks in between, 2 road games at the Big Ten, both as an underdog, both outright wins. 20-10 at ranked 21 Minnesota and 31-29 as a +3 dog at Maryland. Generational revenge, a spot you want to buy a team that has situational tendencies and a short number. Last year on the road, Wisconsin was laying 3.5 points. Now they come home short 2.5, should be 6.5 or 7 or even 15 if this was historical Wisconsin Purdue football. 3:30 p.m. 1.5 units. Purdue plus 2.5. Guns picks. We're going to the Grease Fire, Grease Bowl, Toilet Bowl special, whatever you want to call it. Florida International. I was just saying New Mexico State's horrible. I think Florida International said, hold my beer. At Charlotte, plus 14.5. Talk to me.
Listen, you want to go find this game and you actually want to watch and sweat this game, it may be on the ESPN, the Ocho. I don't even know where this game is going to be played. We may have to listen on the ham radio at this point, but we have FIU going against Charlotte, 2 bottom feeders in their league. But FIU coming into this game 2-4 straight up. Minus 21 point differential, minus 122 net yard average. And you're asking yourself, why are you backing this FIU team? Because they're playing Charlotte. That's why. Charlotte is 1-6 straight up this season with a minus 20 point differential, minus 166 net yard average. Now you have FIU as approved in the last few weeks in running the ball. They've actually improved dramatically. They put up 147 yards per game on the ground and 4.6 yards per carry. This is going to be a key point when you're looking at this Charlotte defense. Charlotte isn't much of a running team, but it does pass the ball. They put up 274 yards passing per game. Chris Reynolds has 63.9% completion rate, 8.4 yards per attempt, 14 touchdowns, 6 INTs. So Charlotte, yes, I know they're a passing team. They try to stay into every game that they're doing. That's probably why they hit so many overs. But both teams' defenses, like I said, are bad. FIU gives up 444 yards per game to their opponents, but Charlotte gives up 534 yards per game to their opponents. In the opponent's offensive season, FIU allows 77 yards above their opponent's season average, but Charlotte is 131st in defensive yards per play, 7.6, and FIU is 117, 6.3. So FIU does have a better defense. Now, revenge game. FIU lost to Charlotte last year, 45-33 as 3.5 point dogs. FIU is 5-1 straight up versus Charlotte, dating back to 2015. Both these teams are bottom feeders. I get that. But I think FIU has a better defense to make stops. Charlotte can't stop anybody. And with an improved run game from the FIU team, I think they're going to try to run it down Charlotte's throat, and they're going to try to control the clock. You get them at 14.5 point dogs in this situation. I will never spend a red cent on Charlotte as a favorite ever, even though they're playing FIU, but I will spend a little bit of coin on FIU versus Charlotte. I'm going to be taking them here, plus 14.5 as the play.
Love it. When we're betting those type of games, I enjoy those type of games, as you guys know, particularly in other sports, college football being one of them. When you find these bottom feeder teams, you find smaller conferences. As we talked about, we love the Sun Belt, we love Mountain West, and we're going to the Mountain West now. And we're taking my final official play, Air Force minus 2-1 unit. A lot going on here as well. And when you really start to trace Air Force football, they play such a unique style. It's very much matchup driven. And you go through the last few weeks, this is correlating to what happened last year, sustaining itself this year. Go back to last week. Air Force did hammer UNLV on the road at Allegiant Stadium in Vegas, 42-7. Go back to last year. What did Air Force do? They hammered UNLV. Go back to the previous week. They lost outright to Utah State. Go back to last year. What did they do against Utah State? Non-cover, and I believe an outright loss. As this all correlates into itself, you go back to last year. What did Air Force do against Boise State? They won outright as a road dog. Line functionality in conference. You're a road dog at +3. You come home -4.5 at open. A lot of steam coming the other direction. A lot of interesting elements going on with Boise State. Boise State a couple weeks ago at UTEP did lose the game, and they also lost their starting quarterback, Hank Bachmeier, all of a sudden to the transfer portal just out of nowhere. Something was going on. Now they're playing their backup quarterback, and you catch a team that is situationally hot. Off that loss at UTEP, 27-10, where Bachmeier said, I'm out. The last 2 games at home, blowout win, 35-13 against San Diego State, blowout win against Fresno State and a backup quarterback, 40-20. They come in here off 2 home blowouts. They're 3-0 ATS in conference, but key point. They're 3-0 ATS in conference against New Mexico, San Diego State, and Fresno State. All teams that are down this year and all teams that Boise State was a significant double-digit favorite against. This is an environmental shift. And the final point here, when you go through the last decade of Air Force versus Boise State football, it seems to cluster. I'm not entirely sure why, but I think it's recruiting and personnel driven. When one side of this rivalry gets a better group for 4 years, because again, Air Force is not putting guys into the NFL after 2 years. These are 4-year guys. This is a sustainable scheme. The previous generation of Boise State football did run off 4 consecutive wins and covers against Air Force. Air Force got them last year, which brings them to 1-4 in the last 5 ball games. And even though it's a revenge game, I think the generational 10-year window suggests a continued uptick for Air Force, and the number is suggesting it. We're staying on at -2, 1 unit. 8 p.m. primetime Big 12 football. The gun has the shades on. Jay Money loves this play too. I think everybody loves this play. Kansas State on the road at Texas Christian University, +3.5, and the money line, +151. Guns picks, 2 officials, 1 game.
The buy hat is engaged, folks. And we're going to be taking Kansas State not only on the 3.5, we're going to be taking them on the money line for an extra unit. Let me tell you why. Let's look at this game for a second. Now, TCU coming off a great OT win versus Oklahoma State, and I think that was a revenge spot, if I might say, +124 net yards for that game. They only won by 3. Now, Kansas State is off a bye week. They are well rested, well prepared to go play this TCU team. They are 5-1 straight up this season. Previous game, it was a 10-9 road win over Iowa State, where they were +112 net yards for the game. Now, K-State is a run-first offense. They average 5.7 yards per game this season, and they have the dual threat option with Deuce Vaughn and QB Adrian Martinez. Shout out the Nebraska Cornhuskers that are dealing with some goddamn issues there. But TCU has done well stopping the run. I will say that 3.7 yards to their opponents, but they have only faced offenses that had a dual threat running it. They haven't faced any offenses that have done a dual threat running attack. So when they played Kansas, they gave up 189 yards on the ground, 5.0 yards per carry. So that is the sample that I've seen a dual threat quarterback with a good running back. That's how they've dealt with the team. They've actually had some fits versus teams with dual threat quarterbacks. Also, you got to look at Kansas State. They've won the last 3 meetings straight up and against the spread. They are 6-1 against the spread in the last 7 meetings. And the home team is 2-4 against the spread in the last 6. TCU's the home team, by the way. I want to make that very clear. Now, Kansas State has dominated in the series. They have extra time to prep. This TCU team is off a back-to-back close games and a big win in double overtime versus a top 10 opponent. This team is on the highest of highs, so that means that stock needs to be sold, and I'm going to be riding with the Cats here. Give me Kansas State +3.5 and the money line +151 for a little bit of a sprinky dink as the play.
I love it. I love these hats. My guy in the chat says he'd buy this Pacers hat. I agree, sir. I think this is a beautiful print. And I think Guns with the beautiful regal purple Kansas State with that print and that embroidery. Show it to the fans, Guns. Lean into the camera a little bit.
Gotta lean in here.
What a beautiful, beautiful.
Oh, it pops out. It's popping. This hat is popping.
Absolutely beautiful. And the final play, 10:30 p.m. We're going Pac-12 football. Guns calls this the degenerate special. he doesn't mean it's a degenerative bet. He means if you're up late grinding, he sees you and he respects you, and it's an opportunity to dominate. Cal plus 7.5 at home against the Washington Huskies. Guns picks, the final official of this Week 8 broadcast.
That's right, folks. You see it right here. We're riding the Cal Bears, baby. Degenerate special personified, and a Cal team that we need to back in this spot. Let's look at Washington for a second. Washington is off a 10-point win, no cover last week, 49-39 versus Arizona. They had a plus 69 net yard average, 595 yards of total offense. The win is coming off back-to-back losses as a favorite, by the way. So they needed that win desperately. Now look at Cal coming off back-to-back road losses. The last loss was a deflating loss to Colorado of all teams. Colorado is the bottom feeder of all bottom feeders, 20-13 on the road. It's 15.5-point road favorites. So this team is going to come back with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, and they're playing a Washington team that they're going to want to beat here. Now, Colorado is a different team at home than they are on the road. They have a plus 15-point differential at home, plus 52 net yard average. Their offense actually puts up 461 yards per game there, which is 160 yards more than they put up on the road. So you got to look at that perspective there. Cal is just a absolute straight dog at home. Now you look at Washington, they are struggling on the road this season. They have a minus 8-point differential, 110 yards less offense, and they give up 101 more yards on the defensive side. Now you look at Washington is going into a much needed bye coming out of this Cal thing. So maybe they're looking towards the bye. They want that much needed rest, and they're not going to be prepared for this Cal Bears team. And because they're going to have after the bye, they're going to go and play Oregon State at home in a revenge spot. So maybe they're looking a little bit more ahead, and they're not really thinking of this Cal team that can go and beat you out. Now, Cal, revenge game. They lost 31-24 to Washington last season as 7.5-point dogs. Cal has covered the last 3 matchups all as a dog. Now, Cal is 5-1 against the spread after a straight-up loss, 6-1-1 following an against the spread loss, which they had both of those last week, and 5-1 against the spread at home, 22-9-1 under Will Cox as a coach, as a dog. This is a Cal team you want to be backing right now, my friends. As bad as Cal is, they show up when the games matter. They're playing at home. They're playing in a revenge spot. They're playing in a position when they are a dog, which they excel at historically. I'm going to be riding the Cal team. It's not a like play. It's an I love play. You know what you do? You put the bet in at 10:30. If you're on the East Coast, you put that bet in. Just go to bed. You're going to have your money for NFL. Don't worry about it. Give me the Cal Bears plus 7.5 as the play.
And speaking of NFL, we will be live 10 a.m. NFL Sunday on Sunday morning. But regardless of the NFL, staying the course here. 5 top plays, 9 words of lifestyle. Ride the wave or get out of the water. My top 5 plays for Week 8. EMU, 2 p.m. MAC West football. Plus 2.5, 1.5 units. La Tech plus 3, 1 unit. LSU fading the 7-0 Ole Miss squad coming in here. Minus 121 unit. Purdue plus 2.5, 1.5 units. Air Force minus 2, 1 unit at 7 p.m. Eastern. Guns picks, 7 top plays. Navy at home at noon, 2 p.m. EMU alignment plus 2.5. 3:30 p.m. Oregon minus 6.5. 3:30 p.m. again, Tulane Green Wave minus 7. 3:30 p.m. the Grease Fire Toilet Bowl special. Florida International on the road getting 2 touchdowns plus 14.5. 8 p.m. The buy hat is engaged for my partner of the gun, Kansas State plus 3.5 money line plus 151. And 10:30 p.m. the buy hat is also engaged as we speak. Cal plus 7.5. It is CFB Knowledge for College, Week 8, Friday, October 21st, 2022. The Shark and the Gun. We appreciate you guys. Your passion, your following, the abundance, the respect is palpable in your conversation in the chat. Tell your friends about it. Bring people into this chat as we build this channel. It is a media network. It is Sharky Waters Nation. It is the Shark and the Gun. Guns picks, close them out with some words, and let's fucking dominate.
I want to thank the chat for everybody that participated. Pat Capper, Alejandro Mooch, 40 ounces beer belly dude. Great name. Off Grid Sports as always in the chat. And Jer Silkman 412. Love you guys. Please keep engaging. Please hit the like. Please subscribe to the Dad Bod YouTube channel. Please spread the word about the sharpest goddamn show on the planet, the CFB show, Knowledge for College, Shark and the Gun. We're here every single Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on this channel. And make sure you check us out tomorrow on 10 a.m. I'm sorry, Sunday, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for the Circa Million show with Shark, myself, and the Odds Fellow. But thank you all for joining. Thank you all for participating. Let's cash some tickets on a damn Saturday. And also, I will be live tomorrow, 9:30, 10 o'clock. I will give you the update on that one, Eastern Standard Time, for the live feed. You bring the plays, I bring the opinions. That's how it works here, folks. So good luck with your picks. Let's keep cashing. And as always, let's keep dancing. Yeah!